yourself to be because you're familiar with yourself that way. Who knows people that are always depressed? They win the lottery, yeah, but last week it was double, I won the one that was half. They'll always see a way.
Glass is always half.
Yeah, they always find a way to steal the victory. Are you with me? Who knows also some people, there aren't many but there are some, that are for the most part pretty upbeat and energy and happy. Who knows people like that as well? And they have to, like I said earlier, life happens to all of us. And life deals us all the different cards. But how you experience it and how you choose to respond rather than react is the difference. Learning to respond to life is a lot more powerful than reacting to life. Very few people respond to life. Responding means what?
Interaction.
Explain a little bit more what you mean interaction.
Responding means that you react to one another. And that you got to think about things.
Think it through. Okay, perfect. Think it through. Here's a great little strategy you can use in response versus reaction. A reaction is knee-jerk. You with me? You don't have a say. It's predictable. Why is it predictable? Because that's what you've always done in the past. It's a trained, predictable response in your future until you interrupt it. Make sense? So your future is already predicted by your past. That's a given. How do you change that? Interrupt that pattern. So instead of reacting, if you want to learn to respond, here's a powerful, powerful technique that I often still use and used to use a lot more in the early days, now less because you develop new patterns of behavior. Press pause. Just press pause. Count to 10. It works wonders. If you can learn this really, really simple technique, before you let your emotions do what they always do, press pause and ask yourself this question. Is my automatic emotional reaction going to serve me or take something away? And then replace it. Which emotional response will serve me in this situation? So now we're turning into a common sense rather than an automatic. Who's realised that sometimes emotional responses really don't make sense from the outside? If you're an alien looking in at the way human beings react to life, some of the things we do, it's really, really weird. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Who's noticed that before? Anyone? Forget the alien on the wall. Who sometimes does something that is really, really draining, really not serving you, really doesn't do you any good, and you even find yourself questioning in your mind,
why did I do that?
Why am I doing this? Who's ever caught themselves doing that? Isn't it magical? So here's another thing. That's what all human beings do. Nobody teaches us this stuff. It's just the science of how we operate. It's like if you understand that this is the computer, the hardwiring, the nervous system of every human being on the planet is the same. Your skin might be different, your blood group might be different, your surroundings might be different, but when you strip it all down, your brain and your nervous system, there's no difference in any human being on the planet.
We all have the same colour blood.
Yes. The colour is certainly red, right?
Yeah.
So every human being, in terms of your operating system, is the same. Cool? But nobody ever teaches how to maximize that operating system. It's a little bit like, who's got a smartphone? Anyone got a smartphone? Yeah, I often say a smartphone is only smart if you are. Otherwise you only make phone calls and send texts. You can do that with a not so smart phone. You with me? So a smartphone is only smart if you are. But if you have a smartphone and you get smart, my goodness, you can change your whole life. Because you know how to use what you've got in your hand. And yet most people have no idea how to use most of what's in their hand. You with me? You make the phone calls, you send the text, maybe even use WhatsApp. Some of you do Candy Crush Saga, whatever, a couple of little things here and there. But in the grand scheme of how you can efficiently operate your life from a handheld device, most people don't know how to do that. Make sense? But what if you actually took some time to learn that about yourself? Who thinks this thing we call life, that if you could give yourself the edge, the advantage, it would be a skill worth learning? Right? So that's what I like to teach. So in terms of the industry that we're in, we've chosen to join a company and build our future towards an end goal. And for most people, that end goal, different words will describe it, but ultimately for me, it's some kind of freedom, is what people want. Financial freedom, time, the ability to make your own choices, to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. Fair enough? How it looks is different for all of us. For some people it's more family, for some people it's more health, for some people it's more travel, for some people it's more toys, for some people it's more donation, more giving, more charity, whatever it is. Everyone's got different stuff, but ultimately that's what we're aiming for, correct? And in this field, one of the things that excites me is that it is a field that's tested and proven for many decades. For around 7 decades now, 70, 75 years, the industry has been legally operating in the world. The first company to start the conversations with the courts many, many years ago is which one? Amway. Who said that? Amway. First company. When they started, they were absolutely illegal in the eyes of the American government. To the point that the government took Amway to court. Do you know how often, when the government takes someone to court, that someone wins? How often do you think that happens? Are you with me? That conversation is a one-way conversation, for the most part. But these guys, through all their genius, and thank goodness they did, they decided to stand up instead of sit down. And they said, we're going to fight the government. And they won. And they legalized what we now have the benefit of, which is a phenomenal industry that's come a long way in the last 75 odd years. Is that cool? Isn't it important then that if you decide to embark on a journey in a new environment, which for most people it's a new learning. They didn't teach you at school about network marketing. They didn't teach you at college. They didn't teach you at university. Are you with me? So for most people, they've never been exposed to what we talk about. For the first time when you saw network marketing, the first time you saw it, who had a moment in their mind that was like, oh my goodness, I wish I knew this earlier?
Yes. Facebook.
Show me your hands if you wish you knew earlier. Yeah. It's always like that, right? So why didn't they teach me this at school? Yeah. Can you imagine your last day at university or college, and the headmaster or headmistress sits you down and says, Kalpesh, congratulations on all of these certificates. You've been a great student. You've learned a lot of useless information. You'll forget most of it within the next 3 or 4 years. You won't use any of it throughout the long term of your life, but well done. But let me just give you a quick insight on how it works in the real world. You've got 2 paths. Path number 1 is the one that the masses take. They take these pieces of paper that we give you and they sell them to a company for a fixed amount of money that will keep you struggling with money for the rest of your life. That's path number 1. You'll never have enough. You'll always struggle. And God forbid, if the shit hits the fan, you'll really be in trouble. And path number 2 is that you can wake up.
Can you believe that story?
Yeah.
The BONOFA car reversing at 90 miles an hour. I love it. Awesome. And path number 2 is a path that anyone can choose, but most won't have the courage or foresight to do it. And it's a lot tougher because there's no fixed income at the end of the month. It's completely variable and it goes up and down, up and down, up and down for a long, long time until you stabilize it. Here's how it works over time in this industry. In the beginning, you earn no money. You're learning. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Some people learn faster than others, it doesn't matter, but eventually you start getting rewarded for the effort that you're putting in. Cool? And then something happens, and it looks like it's not working. And then you find the solution, and you speak to people that have been there before, and it goes up better. And something happens, and it looks like it's not working again. But eventually, over time, it far exceeds anything that any other business model on the planet can even compete with. Why can't conventional business compete with network marketing? What are some of the things that a conventional business, however appealing it might be, just cannot compete with this industry? Why? What are they?
That's a horizontal one.
Sorry?
That's a horizontal one.
Conventional business, no, you can have a conventional business and still have an upside. Richard Branson did it, Bill Gates did it, right? The upside on a conventional business is also there.
You don't have the multipliers.
Lack of
The
knowledge.
leverage, right?
You
Right.
can make your own rules and not the rules of your boss.
Right, but if you are the boss, like if you own your own company, that's another route, right?
Kind of colony, yes.
Yeah, so if you own your own company
Yes.
versus a network marketing
Yes.
company.
Yes.
Lack of a network.
No, because you can buy a network,
Suspicion.
pay wages, right?
Suspicion.
What do you mean suspicion?
Afraid to losing the money.
Tell me more.
They are afraid to lose money. They think it's too big a risk. They don't
In
dare
a
to take
conventional
risks.
business?
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah. So the biggest thing that I always say, that network marketing allows you to have the upside without the downside. Think about that for a second. There's no downside in network marketing. There's no risk. Once you're in, that's it, you're in. The world is your oyster. The possibilities are infinite. There's no rising overhead, there's no wage bills, there's no offices, there's no, there's no overhead. Other than a very bare minimum, consistent, your mobile phone bill and your internet bill. That's it. My business is my mobile phone and my laptop. Everything else is a luxury. If I want to travel, okay, I spend money on flights, hotels, restaurants. That's it. They're all a choice. I don't have to do that. I don't have to be here, right? I come here out of choice. Because I love seeing people and building the relationships and doing all of this stuff. But I could have been at home today and the volume that BONOFA generates would still have been generated. Agreed? That's complete freedom. It's absolute freedom. I don't have to worry. How am I going to cover the bills next month? That staff left, I need to find a new staff. And none of that's there. Is this making sense? Once you've been through this bit, so I want to talk about this bit. This is this part here.
The hardest part.
99% of people leave somewhere along the way. Isn't that amazing? But like everything, it's the same for everyone. The experience might be, the circumstance might be different, the events might be different, but the emotional roller coaster, the journey you take is the same for everybody. Doesn't change. I have the same ups and downs as you do, but I manage them differently. Does that make sense? That's all it is. There's no difference between me and you, other than what goes on in here. And so if you understand who makes this money, in any industry in the world, who makes the big money? The people that commit, focus,
Have a vision.
have a vision,
That's
that stay, have dreams,
Talk with your heart.
talk from your heart, be honest, be genuine, passionate.
Invent, work hard.
Sorry?
Invent and work hard.
Yep, invent, create, work hard,
believe.
believe.
So.
See, we know all the answers. So the reality is to get from here to here, it's not difficult. We know the answers, whether you're willing to step up, to go through whatever you've got to go through, to become that person that deserves that reward. Make sense? So this is an emotional test more than anything else. The journey of any business, or even if we look at the conventional world, who's got a job? It's no different than the job world. How many people make it to the top? 1%. It's always a few. It's always a few. But it's the same company. It's the same company with the same products and services and the same career ladder for everybody. And yet you find emotionally the people over here will complain that the people over here have got it really good. And all they do is they look at excuses and reasons why they can't be here. And the reality is they're just not willing to do this. They're not willing to do the emotional work. Does that make sense? It boils down to what I say always pays really well. There are always exceptions to every rule. But ultimately, if you want to become a millionaire, who wants to become a millionaire? Anyone interested in that conversation? And you know what? I talk about millionaire. Million used to mean something 20 years ago. It doesn't. A million doesn't do much these days. It really doesn't. It sounds like, you know, because you've heard it from your parents and grandparents. But today, a million won't get you too far. Not in this country, it won't. Not in the Western world. You with me? So if your goal is just to become a millionaire, good luck with that one. If you really want to live a comfortable life for the long term, you've got to think of multiples now. Is that making sense? Guess who makes that kind of money? In any company, anywhere in the world?
The top.
Yeah, the leaders. And there will always only ever be a handful of people that develop, that take the time to develop the leadership skills that are required to command the results. Is that making sense? While most are complaining, there's a handful that are studying, reading, learning, applying, growing, developing, and becoming better and better, stronger and stronger. So the next time there's an opportunity of promotion between all the different people around, the people at the top that are choosing know the skills that they're looking for because they went through the journey themselves. Is this making sense? And then they spot it and say, right, we've been watching you for the last 3 years, 4 years. We like the way that you operate. You're always in before everyone else. You're the last one to leave. You're always smiling. You're upbeat. You inspire the people around you. You don't take many breaks. You're dedicated. You're committed. You're focused. You've got everything that we're looking for. Come, join us at the top. There's plenty of room. But we're very selective. Make sense? Now, in other companies, you have to wait for somebody to spot your talent and pull you up. It's another reason I love this company, this industry even. In network marketing, you choose how quickly you go from here to here. Nobody gets in your way. You don't have to interview with anyone. You don't have to pass any tests or exams with somebody else. You don't have to prove to somebody else. It's very simple. It's black and white. It's numbers. It's just numbers, volume. The computer decides. Who thinks that's fair, that there's no human error? Who thinks that's a fair system? You with me? And so, if that's all it is, it's black and white. Do the volume, get the rank, get the pay. That's a phenomenal measure, isn't it? Nothing to do with your other stuff that might be in the way, whether you get on with the boss or the boss gets on with you, or whether they like the look of your eyes, the look of the way that you dress, the way you present. None of that matters. You can look whatever way you like and still make a fortune in this industry. In fact, there are some people that really do look whatever way they like and make a fortune in this industry. Are you with me? And so you get to choose the terms and conditions of how you want to operate in that field, but as long as you're producing the results. So the results are the measure. Make sense? The results, that's the measure of who you are in that journey. So I always say that if you really want to understand the dynamics, never lose focus of why you joined. Your dream, your goal, your vision, the ambition, the aspirations, the grand picture. And I say picture, why? Why do I say picture?
You have to picture it.
Visually. The most strength of belief that you'll get is visual as a human being. A picture paints.
See with your own eyes.
Yeah, a picture paints what?
Without the words.
You with me? So it's not about written goals, it's about visual goals. picture yourself in your mind's eye. Picture yourself. Who would you be? How would you show up? How would you, the look on your face, the way that you stand, your physiology, your communication, the way you feel. What is that in your future when you're doing what you have in mind to do here? What are you surrounded by? The kind of people you're surrounded by? What does your lifestyle look like? The kind of places you travel to, the kind of places you eat at, the kind of places you visit. What is all of that? You want to have it here, visual. You with me? That is going to inspire you more than anything else. So how do we work on that? How do you get really clear on that exercise right there? Who here dreams? Any dreamers in the room? Very good. Here's the thing. And that's quite a lot, and that's probably because we're in a network marketing room, right? A lot of people don't dream. Did you know that? Do the survey. Ask people around when you're at work next time. How often do you dream? A lot of people don't dream much. When they go to sleep, they're in a coma. Yeah, that's true. Some even go the other way and get nightmares, right? I mean, you really got to have some messed up stuff going on for that one, right? You with me? What are dreams? They're a function of what goes on in your mind throughout the day.
Process.
Yeah. You with me? So if you're having nightmares, that says a hell of a lot about what you're focused on during the day. Can you see that? If you're not having any dreams, that says a hell of a lot about what you're processing during the day. Now here's the thing, it's a blank canvas. You can choose what happens in that time. You with me? You can choose what happens in that time. Now what do you think is more powerful? What you dream about when you're asleep, or what you dream about when you're awake? You can actually choose that on purpose. Foresight is better than hindsight. Don't talk about the nightmare you had last night. Design the dream you're going to have today in advance. If you tell yourself any story often enough, your mind will believe it. You impregnate your mind with what you want to. Get your mind to work for you rather than against you. Can you see that? What you think about, what you speak about, what you behave about, how you show up, leaves an impression in here, whether you like it or not. Everything you do, everything you say, everything that happens to you, how you experience all of the events as they happen to you, leave an emotional footprint. You with me? Who gets to choose what that emotional experience is? When something happens, who gets to choose that? Remember I said earlier on, the same event happens, one person sees it as a really good thing, another one sees it as a really bad thing. Who did that? Yourself. Wasn't the event. It wasn't the event. Two twins grow up with exactly the same parents that treat them exactly the same way. And one grows up bitter and twisted and resentful and ends up in prison. And the other one grows up inspired and excited and ends up making a difference. Isn't that amazing? Who knows siblings that grew up in the same home with the same parents that treat them the same way and have completely different experiences of their parents? Who knows people like that? Isn't that amazing? It's human beings. It was never the parents. The parents were just the parents. But we like to blame the parents. Are you with me? The parents were just the parents. It's what you did with your expectations, your assumptions, your comparisons. You did all of that. My friend's parents are so different to my parents. You with me? My parents treat my brother or sister so differently to how they treat me. No, you did all that. And then you looked for evidence and you found it. There's always evidence. There's always evidence to back up your side of the story. Always. That's the design of human beings. Who drives? Who's ever experienced this? That you're choosing which car you want to buy. And you say, right, I'm going to buy this one because none of my friends have got that car and it's going to be unique and different and that will represent me. And you buy the car, you go out the first time and every other car is the same as yours.